Can everybody see that all right?
Yep.
All right. So at this point, we're hoping to move on to the cluster subdivision design. So we've got 5 lots in a cluster formation in the Agamenticus Resource District right off of Bennett Lot Road. So it's a much smaller road than the conventional lot. So, and much smaller lots in general, no impact to the vernal pools, and wetland impacts are kept to a minimum. And as far as the general project goes, that is really it. So I guess I'll kind of let the public open up with questions, and I'm happy to answer any that come up.
Okay, thank you, Brian. What we'll do here is we'll open up for questions or comments. Please, when I figure out who's raise your hand or whatnot, it'll be a little difficult because we're not going to see everybody at once here. But please state your name and your address, and then keep your comments fairly brief because we have a lot of people that want to go tonight. So I see Gary Wetzel's hand up. Gary, you want to start? You're muted, Gary.
Hi, my name is Gary Wetzel, and I am speaking for myself and my wife, Nancy Wetzel. We live at 39 Bennett Lot Road. I am speaking about the relationship between the South Berwick Code and the Comprehensive Plan. The language of the code clearly incorporates and upholds the Comprehensive Plan. Their texts are framed to be mutually supportive and authoritative. For example, in Code Section 140-47, Planned Residential Development, Section A, Part 1, the purpose, are the words to, quote, further the goals of the South Berwick Comprehensive Plan, unquote. In the same section, Part 2, the words used are, quote, consistent with the goals and policies of the South Berwick Comprehensive Plan, unquote. And in the code section 140-77, site plan review, section A, part 5 states that the purposes are to, quote, ensure the consistency with the goals, policies, and ideals of the South Berwick Comprehensive Plan, unquote. The most powerful connection between the code and the comprehensive plan lies in Chapter 140, zoning. Here in Article 4, Land Use District Requirements, Section 140-15, Part D, the purpose of the Agamenticus Resource District, R5, is quoted verbatim from the comprehensive plan. This states, number 1, to protect the Mount Agamenticus area in accordance with the goals and principles of the comprehensive plan. Number 2, to allow for low density housing while creating a contiguous area of important natural resource systems, scenic beauty, and recreational opportunity. And number 3, to minimize those uses which could prove detrimental to the environment of the Mount Agamenticus area. As I stated, this wording in the code is taken directly from the comprehensive plan, Section K, land use. This proposed cluster development abuts a 288 acre portion of the State of Maine Wildlife Management Area, which was purchased from the Moores Falls Corporation in 1994. The funds came mostly from the Nature Conservancy and Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, with the Great Works Regional Land Trust negotiating the deal and paying for the survey. Many citizens donated funds for this project and gathered on Bennett Lot Road for a dedication. Such cooperative efforts are the ongoing work of many in our community. Our planning documents, the code and the comprehensive plan, have been written in part with language which enables us to support these efforts. I ask you to please protect the Agamenticus Resource District in accordance with the goals and principles as stated in both the code and the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. In no particular order, I see Sally with no last name.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's good.
I'm Sally Hunter. I live at 46 Thurl Road, where I've lived for almost 46 years. I've been a member of the Great Works Regional Land Trust for maybe 30 years. I volunteered, but I'm not representing the Land Trust just now. The Land Trust was formed about 36 years ago, in part as a response to intense land speculation and development in our rural area of town. Its goals included saving open space, wildlife habitat, water resources, and recreation opportunities for generations to come. That was so clearly seen during the last year of the COVID-19, especially on my road. Working with its conservation partners, the state of Maine, private foundations, and the 6 Great Works towns, including South Berwick, spectacular goals have been achieved. The Mount Agamenticus to the Sea Conservation Area is one of the conservation jewels for the entire East Coast. It is all of ours to save and to protect. Hundreds of individuals have spent untold hours, energy, and money to achieve what we now have today. To further this effort, some abutters and neighbors have sacrificed part of the value of their land through conservation easements, an ongoing effort that will extend into future decades. Their sacrifices, financial and other, deserve equal or more consideration than the added profits the proposed plan would provide the developer. This proposed subdivision not only threatens endangered species, but poses a broader threat to the region. It is surrounded by wetlands that support the Algonquin Brook that flows into the Algonquin River and travels through the heart of the Mount A Conservation Area. Retaining pools and buffers are not effective. They will not protect this watershed. Roads, vehicles, septic systems, lawns, and general human usage are obvious non-point sources of pollution. There's no doubt that the citizens of South Berwick understand the incredible value of preserving this area, as well as the threat speculative land development presents. Both the comprehensive plan and the ordinances instruct the town planning board to protect the Mount A Conservation District from any potential threats. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. I think it's Carl Person on Sandy Grafiotis's computer.
Yes, I'm trying to unmute here.
There you go.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Carl Pearson. My wife, Sandy Grafiotis, and I have put a conservation easement on our property, which has frontage on Emery's Bridge Road and Bennett Lot Road, in close proximity to the proposed development.
I'm sorry, Carl, just please state your address, please.
548 Emery's Bridge Road.
Thank you.
Providing more protected area for wildlife was our primary motivation for doing this easement. We know that large areas of contiguous land are very important for the survival and safe movement of many species. In terms of public benefit, our easement provides a trail that connects the Orris Falls Conservation Area with the large Mount Agamenticus region, providing a link between recreation areas that will be valued by the public for years to come. We were willing to give up the option for the future sale of at least 3 house lots on our property because of our conviction that at this moment, and perhaps for only another 5 or so years, there is an opportunity to keep these wooded areas unchanged. Based on trends in Seacoast, New Hampshire, and northern Massachusetts, it has been determined by conservation groups that it is likely that 90% of all the land that will be ever conserved in southern Maine will be protected by 2025. defining our community's landscape for the next century or more. Landowners, municipalities, the state, federal governments have been willing to commit financial resources and relinquish income with the goal of establishing and maintaining public access lands. The tagging area is one of the last places in southern part of the state where such protections have been successful. I believe that the proposed subdivision is inappropriate in this designated rural area. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I see David McDermott's hand up. You're still muted, David. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. Okay.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate the time here tonight. It is unfortunate, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about actions that have already taken place.
David, you need to give your name and your address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. David McDermott, 60 Bennett Lot Road. Been here for over 40 years. It's unfortunate that we are here tonight at a probable impasse. I know that each planning board member has struggled with this project and sincerely wants to get it right. However, I believe that there are two faulty assumptions made by the board early on that have allowed specific misapplications and violations of the ordinance. First, the board rejected a conventional plan as presented by the applicant as less environmentally friendly than a cluster development. The applicant anticipated this, which is why they had a cluster request on the table almost immediately. In fact, there was no real viable conventional plan presented. The incorrect assumption was that the applicant would be able to get permits from the proper authorities to destroy a vernal pool, disturbed endangered species habitat, and valuable wetlands that their conventional plan would require. This would not have been a foregone conclusion. And without the permits, a viable convention plan does not exist, making this just another non-conforming lot. In the absence of a viable conventional plan, which the ordinance requires, the planning board has neither the authority nor reason to request a cluster plan. If the applicant had somehow managed to get the required permits, at least we would be appealing this to another body rather than to our own town. The second faulty assumption actually makes the do-over required by the first incorrect assumption easier. With the applicant's first presentation of a cluster development, they asked for a road waiver that would more than double the length allowed by the ordinance. Simply put, without the road variance, there can be no cluster development, no subdivision, and the developer would be limited to the number of house lots that they could develop on Bennett Lot Road, basically two, I believe. The planning board to accept at the last meeting, the preliminary cluster plan included a waiver for the required road variance. This motion is invalid, both procedurally and under the ordinance. We should not even be here tonight. A road waiver is not automatic. There are specific procedures required by the ordinance. The motion to approve the preliminary plan and the road waiver as one motion should be voided. The road waiver should have been addressed as a separate motion because they are covered separately in the ordinance. The applicant is required to establish need as per the ordinance, which I will quote here. Section 121.8. Modification to the strict application of the subdivision ordinance may be permitted when, in the opinion of the board, topography or other considerations warrant such modification, provided that the public convenience, safety, health, and welfare will not be affected adversely. B simply says, in granting waivers, the planning board shall require conditions as will in its judgment substantially secure the objectives of the requirements so modified. Section C. In all cases, the convenience of or cost to the property owner and or the applicant shall not be the basis for consideration of a waiver. The applicant is solely responsible for making the case to the board. The application and burden of proof for a waiver to a subdivision ordinance shall be requested in writing at the time of the application to the planning board, specifying the reasons therefore. End of the ordinance quote. no part of the waiver ordinance was complied with. In short, there is no public benefit, only environmental damage in granting the waiver. The variance, in fact, accommodates the convenience of the applicant, allowing him to maximize the housing lots that he can provide in this the planning board and is expressly forbidden by the ordinance. Mr. Gove has from the beginning understood the essential problem with this application and has offered even a remedy. He has said at different times during the process, and I quote, "This is a marginal property," end quote. And quote, "Split it in half and go find another property," end quote. It is not the town's responsibility to fix what might have been a bad investment. The developer is trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Thank you very much.
All right, David.
Bill,
Yes, Betsy.
Bill, can we time the, like, set a timer for like 3 minutes or something? For each one? I know there's 35 people.
Yeah, well, I'll ask people to be brief and we'll go to a timer if we need to. Thank you, Betsy.
Okay.
And we could target 3 minutes max, that'd be fine, but people have a right to their statements. Anybody else on the first page? I don't see it. Anybody else? We got Deborah Ganster next.
Yes, thank you. I'm Deborah Ganster and I live at 576 Emery's Bridge Road. I am an abutter. We've had an off-grid farm here for 25 years and the vernal pool habitat on the Bennett lot parcel extends onto our property. When we moved onto this land, we consulted with the turtle radio mapping folks at the University of Maine before proceeding with any activity here. Last summer, Derek Yorks from IF&W checked a Blandings turtle nest near our porch and recommended to us how to protect it. 8 of 11 eggs hatched successfully and left the nest. There are now 8 yearling turtles in this wetland habitat. I've been a veterinarian for 35 years. My professional responsibility is to protect the health and welfare of all animals, to prevent pain and suffering, and to protect the environment. For that reason, I am opposed to this subdivision in any form. There is little to offer to protect the environment and to protect the health and welfare of any non-human species on this site. The potential impacts on sensitive and important habitat are great. This parcel should be in conservation, and we have a precedent in this area with organizations who do that well. We are part of a large effort in the region. The state, large conservation organizations like Maine Coast Heritage Trust, the Audubon Society, the Nature Conservancy, and our sister land trusts. This is only a partial list. The Agamenicus Resource District 5 zone part of South Berwick is an interconnected, interdependent part of a unique, bigger ecosystem, which is home to several endangered species, many of whom need large ranges. The Blanding turtle normal range can be up to several miles. It is imperative to consider the cumulative impacts of development on this site that will result in permanent loss of precious habitat that citizens value and that we share with everyone in our community. Every home that is built is likely to have 2 to 5 people living there. Each home is a huge site disruption during construction, and from wells, septics, paved driveways, lawn mowing, pools, spraying, ATVs, pets, and so on. Traffic engineers estimate that a single family home generates 10 car trips per day. For this proposal, this would amount to 18,250 car trips per year on all roads leading to and into the subdivision, crisscrossing habitat that many turtles utilize as part of their vernal pool network range with Mount Ag and other wetland locations. There are areas in South Berwick that are zoned for and more appropriate for this kind of human habitation. In addition to serious technical and procedural problems with this proposal that others have outlined, it simply does not align with the intention of the comprehensive plan or any conservation effort for Resource 5 protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. By the way, that was 2.5 minutes. Thank you. Yeah. I think I saw Joe Delatorre's hand up. Is that right, Joe? Okay,
Yes,
Joe,
thanks.
you're next.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Yeah. And thanks, Bill, for advocating for letting us have the time to give you our opinions, because we appreciate that. My name is Joe Delatorre. I also live at 576 Emery's Bridge Road. I have a couple of issues I think more following up with what David said. So at the May 5th meeting, the board voted to accept the conventional sketch plan's net residential density calculation as the sole basis for sizing an alternative cluster plan, and then redirected their attention to the applicant's cluster proposal. This decision to move to the cluster plan was premature because the board did not fully evaluate whether the conventional plan could achieve final approval. The cluster ordinance says that the number of lots permitted cannot exceed the number that could be realistically created in a standard subdivision. And when I submit this, I'll give you the citations. A net residential development calculation is just not the sole determined realistic. Any consideration of a cluster plan, if the planning board wants to pursue one, should commence only after the applicant meets the ordinance requirements to submit a complete and realistic conventional plan that could obtain final approval. The plan would need to include all the necessary state permits, of course. The applicant has never done this, and the planning board has not really required them to do so far. The cluster alternative is intended as a means to improve a fully approved plan. It is not intended as a means for an applicant to renovate a preliminary conventional plan that is unlikely to meet approval. Some specific points the board did not fully address are the NRD numbers have been called into question several times. Errors have been identified when they were scrutinized. I think the board really should ask for an independent confirmation of the accuracy of these numbers before making any decisions based on using them. Members of the board may have been unaware of the presence of the endangered species that they've heard about more here tonight, or to the extent to which state policy and regulations protecting endangered species habitat might affect the final approval of a conventional plan. Significant factors regarding the protection of these endangered species habitat need to be addressed before the plan should be accepted as complete. One more thing. Because the public has only 30 days to appeal a decision to the planning board, and the board's recent decisions have significant implications, we have actually submitted a request to appeal certain of planning board decisions to the Board of Appeals, the South Berwick, Zoning Board of Appeals. I request that the planning board forego any further consideration of this project until the appeals have been decided. And I also requested you hold a public hearing open so that after the appeal has been decided, there's an opportunity for the public to have additional comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Page 2, in my view, anybody there?
I see Keegan has his hand.
There's a Pat Robinson
Pat
who has her.
Okay, Pat, go ahead.
She's on mute.
Yeah, she is.
Hi, Pat Robinson, 46 Brattle Street, and I am here representing the Conservation Commission as well as myself. I mean, I'm not going to repeat anything anyone has said, but I just feel that the you know, what people are saying has a lot of merit, and this project just is not right for the parcel. It's not right for the Mount Agamenticus region, and it's not right for the town. As been mentioned, just the amount of traffic would create out in the rural area is obnoxious to me. So I'm just stating that the Conservation Commission opposes this project, and myself, I oppose this project. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Any other hands up? There we go. I don't, you're identified as Jim. You're muted. You're still muted. There you go.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, my name is Jim Gregg, and I live at 235 Knights Pond Road in South Berwick. Okay, and I submitted a brief summary to the town clerk already, and I just pick up on some of the highlights here, if I may. This has to do with some personal experiences that I've had. During the 70s and 80s, I was involved with the Youth Conservation Corps, which is a federally funded program designed to introduce young Americans to conservation opportunities on public lands. And during the summer, youth worked alongside conservation professionals, performing a wide range of work that included habitat cleansing, restoration, and preservation of vernal and remnant areas, such as the land in question proposed for development. They constructed trails and boardwalks to facilitate managed visitation, secured breeding areas, and prepared brochures. The program ended in '82 due to funding cuts, but conservation work of this nature continues to be performed with the help of volunteers, landowners, government agencies, and conservation organizations. The vernal pool area on the Bennett lot parcel represents one of these initiatives intended to sustain and enhance the health of a unique ecological community. I also served in the Peace Corps in Brazil on the Amazon River, and slash and burn agriculture was a subsistence norm there. Farm families burned an area of the jungle, sowed their seeds, worked the plot for a year or two before the natural fertility of the soil was lost, and moved on to another area to begin the cycle anew. Fertility in the tropics is tied up in the plants, and it takes many incremental changes over a period of many decades before enough organic matter is returned to the soil to support even the seedlings of a native climax community. The regenerative cycle in a temperate region is not nearly as long. However, even an interruption to any ecological community, such as development on the Bennett lot vernal pool, can result in the endangerment or eradication of one or more interdependent plant and animal species and disruption of a previously supportive and productive habitat. It may also result in disruption of adjoining ecological communities. With this in mind, I support keeping the unique Bennett lot ecological community intact and unspoiled. And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, I see Barbara Hopkins' hand up.
Barbara Hopkins, Vaughn's Lane, South Berwick. I'm just taken with the general development that is taking place in our area. Way back when I did the background studies of Seabrook Station, we did 3 years, maybe longer. I'm remembering at least 3 years of really charting the populations, looking at the population of the different animals, the different fish, etc. We haven't seen that here. I mean, I know people have been consulted on it, but before we start really disrupting, I'm concerned about the solar farms. It's one thing that they're going in on a field. It's another thing when we're talking about cutting down 18 acres of trees. And so I'm very concerned about the long-term health of South Berwick, our water systems, and of course, the Agamenticus region. It is a gem. People come here just to hike there. They come here to be around our rivers and in our greenways. And we have the development all around us. So I implore you to take a deep breath, step back, and I implore with the developer, what's another plan? Is there something else that you could be doing that would not affect this area, but do it somewhere else? So thank you. Thank you. And I hope there will be better studies done.
Okay. There was an Ashley O'Brien. There you go.
Hi, I'm Keegan O'Brien. She's using my wife's computer. I'm at 125 Bennett Lot Road, and I'm a newcomer here. What brought me here was the conservation land and the rural character of the neighborhood. There's currently no subdivisions on Bennett Lot Road or in the immediate area, so there's no doubt that same character is going to draw newcomers to the area. So that's a great thing as long as we do it with the comprehensive plan and do it with the land itself. I don't believe the subdivision protects the Mount Agamenticus conservation region, and it will certainly negatively affect the endangered species in the local watersheds. But I basically want to look into, I would like the planning board to request an independent soil survey, as well as to check the calculations that led to the determination of 5 lots. The original soil survey or soil density calculation yielded 653,000 usable square feet. Then we determined later on that they need to reduce it by the slopes greater than 25%, which yielded 608,000 usable square feet. And that divided into 5.07 house lots. So to me, that's a razor thin margin. And I would appreciate if we could take a second look at that just to double check those calculations and determine the actual net residential acreage for an independent review. I'd like to, just to make sure, because I don't believe that that area supports 5 lots. Thank you.
Thank you, Keegan. Okay. I'm looking at the screen. I don't see any other hands up. Are there any other hands? Anybody else want to speak to the hearing tonight? I'll close the hearing. Okay, I'll close the hearing at 7:07. Thank you very much, everybody.
You.
Okay. So with that, we return to our regular meeting. And this will come back under old business. But so we'll go to the next item on our agenda is approval of the previous minutes from May 19.
I
And
move we approve the minutes for May 19th.
okay,
I second it.
any comments or discussion? Okay, then I'll take a roll call vote because we're on Zoom. So I'll start with Betsy,
Aye.
Hershey,
Aye.
Manley,
Aye.
Jeff Minahan,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So they were accepted. That's great. The next item is before we go to the thing, the discussion item on the marijuana issues. Does anybody have anything they want to speak to that they haven't spoken to tonight on some other matter that's not on the agenda? And so seeing none, we'll move on. Okay, we left we are to advise the town council on the 2 marijuana issues. And we keep leaving it to late in the day in the meetings, and we can't get to it. So we've agreed to take them up now and spend some time, perhaps up to an hour if necessary, before we go back to our other planning board business. This is under ordinance review. It's not under specific site plan review or subdivision. So it's a independent and open discussion. The town council has requested that we join them at a joint workshop a week from tonight, specifically to discuss the revisions to the medical marijuana storefront ordinance. So I would suggest we deal with that first, and then with time allowing, we can go on to the medical marijuana cultivation ordinance. Just to set the stage for this, there's a lot of marijuana stuff going on in town. This has nothing to do with the 2 petition ordinances, which will be voted on next Tuesday. This has to do with the first one is the medical storefront ordinance, which was adopted in January 2020. And we've got some experience with it, and there's been some suggestions to modify that ordinance. And we started that discussion a couple of meetings ago, and it's time to pick it up again. Let me get the right stuff in front of me. We can share some screens, I think. Hang on. I'll get it in a second. Hang on. There it is. And there that is. Okay, I've opened a couple things. Let me share screens here. How do I do that? I hit this sucker down here, share screen. And I might need to ask Amy for rights. Oh, no, I got it. Okay, good. Okay, you got that? This is the ordinance as adopted in January of 2020. Everybody see that? And we last time we talked about a couple of concepts that included making sure the medical definitions were consistent between the 2 things, and clarifying the definitions of marijuana, which are housekeeping things. And then we talked about very carefully dealing with the separation from schools and the separation between stores. And as a separate issue, there was a question of storefront displays and signage and odor control. So those were the topics. I'd like to alert you. Is this showing this South Berwick Town Council Workshop? May 25, you got that? Is that showing?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. I had a brief discussion with Council Chairman Jack Karikas, and they have actually, the council has actually taken forward some specific ideas for some of these issues. And if we can discuss these quickly, and if we can concur with these, then that might be a way to shortcut some of the issues, and then we'll go back to our list. The suggested amendments that were discussed in a workshop at the council include that what we're really doing, rather than do the setback issue per se, we are talking about that portion of the B1 district, which is from 236 Berwick Road over to Rollinsford. That's where two of the approved ones are right now. And with they were arguing about 700 foot, 500 foot, whatever setbacks from school properties in the original ordinance. But the suggestion is that we lay out, rather than that, we talk about focusing on this area as being allowable for the medical storefronts. The suggestion is, rather than measuring from the school property line, a more clear location for measurement might be from the center line of the front school sidewalk that intersects the public sidewalk. So if you go from Central School out the front entrance and then where it hits the public sidewalk on Main Street, that would be the measurement point. And that's everybody can understand that, rather than something else which is more nebulous. And then they're suggesting a minimum offset dimension from Central School of 1,000 feet, which, by the way, gets you down to the intersection where I was talking about, where Main Street takes off to the west, I guess, from Route 236. So this would be a way to not be ambiguous about where the setbacks would be from the school. There was some confusion as it got adopted last January, 2 Januaries ago, about what the intent was and what the effect was. They're also, in this setup here, they're not talking about the normal course of travel, which was in the original ordinance, but offset of 1,000 feet from that measurement point in front of the Central School. And further, they're suggesting that we go back to a minimum offset dimension from individual medical marijuana caregiver retail stores of 1,000 feet, which basically allows 2 stores down on Lower Main Street, and the other one that we have approved under the existing ordinance would be a non-conforming use. So that's the suggestion from the Town Council workshop, which we can talk about compared to what we were talking about a couple meetings ago, and see if we can have a consensus for concurring or recommending something else. Go ahead.
I concur with that. The only thing I might be wise to put is throw the library in there, but it sounds like that meets pretty much all of our needs. The only thing would be if that school ever stopped being a school, then what happens to it from there. By tying the library in, it kind of sets what the town is going to. I'm talking about the town right uptown here is going to look like. It doesn't.
Right. Theoretically, I share that, but there's no discussion whatsoever with the school district of moving Central School. If that was being discussed and they were looking at relocating it, I have more concern along what you're saying. But I think for the time frame of this ordinance, which could be some number of decades or years, I don't think there's any reasonable chance that Central School is going to be relocated and not be a school. Does anybody have that concern?
I hear you, Bill. I I do feel like our so far the history that we've been seeing in our setup, we've been bitten. It seems like more often than not, and I would concur with Manley on it. I that makes me nervous that we wouldn't be thinking about, just because we're not talking about the school moving now, or it gets taken away by aliens tomorrow or burns down or something like that. That's what I'm concerned about. Making our ordinances off of something that could change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bill,
Well, everything changes. I mean, the library might not be there. That was a church 10 years ago. It's a library now. Who knows what it'll be in 10 years? I don't know. Trouble is, if you bring in the library, you end up with a different set of metrics here for setback.
Right. I think I feel like a majority of the conversations end up being that we'd like to aim it down towards Lower Main Street area.
Yeah, that's correct.
I feel like having more conversation about a limit of how many licenses and really beefing up our licensing around it is where we'd get the most secure ordinance verbiage. But I think that might be jumping ahead, but that's where my thinking is.
Well, let's take it this way. If we could figure out a way to focus the B1, we're B1 only, and I1 and I2. Let's go back to, we'll get that in a minute. So for the B1, I think the consensus is we want it beyond the downtown business block.
Okay.
Clearly, and everybody thought it was to Young Street. Well, it wasn't. And now we have the thing going next to the funeral home. And then, so if we do it this way, it would take us all the way down to the next block, which is past Butler Street to Lower Main Street. If we can concur that that's desirable compared to and the other areas of B1 are not desirable, we can work it out with the council as to how to accomplish that, maybe.
I think that's a good way to go. Let's just get it done.
Okay, Hershey, you got a comment, question?
Well, it just seems like all these machinations about how many feet from whatever would be easier just to create an overlay zone that just said, here's the overlay zone and it's Lower Main Street and that's where you can put your medical marijuana and that's that.
Right.
And then have whatever separations we want so every house doesn't turn into a medical marijuana.
Right,
facility.
right. Yeah, and at this point, I'd be happy just to take that into a workshop meeting next week, and however that gets accomplished, it gets accomplished. I agree with you. And then, David?
Yeah, I don't know, Bill, if I can share my screen. What I did is, since the last time we met, I tried to go through the marijuana issues that we've been discussing. And what I ended up doing is, I know that there's one more, but I made a map myself of just using a straight old Google Earth of the 3 places since I've been working with the town where they are right now. And I took some just rough sketches from them. You want me to share that?
Yeah,
with you?
Please try.
I've got about 10 documents up, so you may not get everything, but let me see here. Hold on, you just went small. And it should be this one here. Okay, you should be looking at a map of the downtown area.
Not yet, it's coming up.
Okay.
There it is. Whoop, there it is. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, sorry, it doesn't let me see what you're seeing. So in any event, what I did is, since I have been here, this one was 373 Main Street. This one right here is the 297 Main Street. And we also looked at this one originally, preliminarily. We've had a couple of people interested. This is 80 Portland Road. And so here's Central School here. And what I did is some quick calculations. So for example, from 80 Portland to 297 Main Street. So 80 Portland is here and here's 297. That's about 315 feet-ish. And I had to guesstimate on the distances between these two because I drew the lots myself. But again, about 315 feet as the crow flies. If I look at 297 to 373, that's 297, 373. If the crow flies, jeepers, creepers, it's been a long day. Excuse me, folks. And it has been. So if you measure the closest point to the closest point, I'm getting about 1,100 feet, just to give you an idea on that one. And 297 to Central Elementary down here. So here's 297. If I go as the crow flies, that's about 450 feet, give or take. So the other thing, okay, I'm sorry. Let me stop sharing this.
Well, there's the original one, which the first one we approved was down at the lower end of Main Street, Calvin Acres project.
Do you have an address for that one, or does somebody there, Amy or Bill, do you recall what the address was?
It's across from Fogarty's. So
436. 436. Right.
436 Main?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if I can get that to come up here. 436. Oh, no. I've never tried to work with it, but when I'm online, so let's see. Okay. And it's telling me, yeah. Okay, so that one's right down here.
A little farther. Maybe
that's pointing it out to me right here.
That's about right.
Okay.
So
and is it this building right here, Bill, where I've got the?
It's across from Fogarty. It's one of those buildings. I don't know which one it is.
Okay. So.
The town council, the town council's thought in their worksheet. If you look at what Dave's got up here, if you pan out of this, Dave, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop it moving. There we go. All right. Well, there's 430 Main Street.
And then so back out and yeah, keep going. A little more. Okay. Oh, that's not good.
Hold on. To the middle. Okay, let's try and zoom in now.
Okay, leave it there, right there. Stop.
Yeah. All right, I ain't touching it. So if you can see 430s right at the top of the screen here.
Okay, fine. What the town council workshop concluded was that if you take the sidewalk here and measure from where it intersects the public sidewalk, that's an easy spot to locate. And then they went 1,000 feet this way. Then that gets you to about here. That gets you to about here. Okay, 1,000 feet down Main Street gets you to about Lower Main Street. Okay, and so that part of B1 would be out. This would be out, and this would be non-conforming.
Okay, it's not showing me where you're pointing to.
Bill. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking you can't.
Okay, so you were talking about this sidewalk right here, correct? There's my cursor on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll request remote control, and you got to give it to me, and then you'll see me.
Okay. All right. Look at that. I've never used that before.
So
there you go. You got it.
You see my arrow now?
Oh, that's mine. All right. I'm not seeing your arrow.
All right.
Oh, wait. There you go.
Okay.
That's you moving around.
Okay. So here's the sidewalk intersection that they're talking about. 1,000 feet down Main Street gets you to about here, Lower Main Street. It takes out this proposal, which has never come to us officially.
Right.
And it would make the 297 Main Street one non-conforming. And it would allow this part of Lower Main Street to be okay. And then if you adopted the 1,000 feet setback between shops, then there's no more, this and this are about 1,000, whatever they are apart, but there would be no other land on Lower Main Street that you could put one in if those two are approved. So that would limit the shops to a non-conforming shop, this approved shop, and this approved shop, which is a that limits the downtown block from additional shops, including the downtown block going up Portland Street. So that's the proposal that town council has suggested we think about. And if you stop sharing, then I'll put this back up.
Okay, hold on. There you go, back.
All right,
Hey, Bill, how come the review doc I have looks different from the one you're using? I downloaded something that I think, Amy, did you send it out or did David send it out just the last day or two that has a big red section for B and C with?
I think you're looking at the stuff I sent out.
Is that the most recent?
No, that doesn't reflect what that doesn't reflect what the town council workshop was. That had some, but not all of our comments from two meetings ago.
Oh, okay.
So the way I see it is everybody's pretty much on the same page as far as the town council and the planning board and their way of doing it is probably just as good as our way of doing it. We beat the thing to death. I think.
Sorry, man, go ahead.
It's time to just move forward, and I'm going to be satisfied with whatever they come up with because I feel they're, like I said, on the same page we are, and I think they're just as qualified as we are.
They require our recommendation, and if we can land on this, we can land on this. We could land on something else.
I say let's go with it.
Okay, let me. That's not all of it though. Let me.
Oh, Bill.
Yes.
I just want to say that the more and more we talk, the more and more I like Hershey's idea of the overlay.
Yeah, I do too. And then
I really like that idea.
Yeah, because then all this dimension stuff goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm leaning to that. If we can accomplish that, I think that's just fine with me.
And I do think that it'll be much easier too for everybody in town to be able to look at the ordinance and really it will be very clear.
Yeah, okay. I tend to agree with you.
I'm fine with that way of doing it also. There are several ways of doing it, and they all pretty much accomplish the same thing.
Now they, just moving on with what the town council had done, they had a bunch of other questions here, which I don't know that we need to, Jeff may be interested in this. But the whole question is, what if you approve one of these things to a registered caregiver and then they sell it to somebody, another registered caregiver or not? There's questions as to whether this should go back through a approval process. And question about whether a non-conforming one lapses or not. So I don't know if those are terribly important to us, but those are questions that were raised at the town council workshop.
It seems to me every other business, when you sell it, the business continues on. As far as licenses, they would be required, I'm sure, within a certain amount of days to obtain their license. Otherwise, they would, or possibly even before the sale goes through, so that they can continue on, is my viewpoint.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Manley. I don't know that we have to have separate procedures for these things. If you're required to have a license to run the business, you're required to have a license to run the business. You own the business. If you want to sell the business, you have to sell the business to a qualifying person. And so we can talk about that if we meet with them next week. Now, the last little piece of it here is that the ordinance now has allowing one in the I1 and I2 zones, I think. That's part of the existing ordinance, isn't it not?
Yes.
Okay. And the offset from Marshwood High School on the I2 side needs to be established. And my thought is that we need to look at the maps and see what it needs. Is it 1,000 feet enough? Is it too much? Does it down there, there's a huge buffer, which is the power line easement. And once you get to the other side of the power line easement, if that's 1,000 feet, that's 1,000 feet. If it's a different number, it's a different number. I think we could just look at that and figure out what the setbacks are down there. Do we agree with that?
Yeah, now is that an easement or do they own the fee in the land?
The power company?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's in their names. They own it.
The power company owns it. Thanks,
Yes.
thanks, Joe. Yeah. So it's across the thing. Now, I want to go back to what we had. Which was this. Is this showing now? So if we do what we're talking about here, whoops. By having a zoning overlay, then all this setback stuff gets taken care of, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And then the other issues that we were talking about a couple weeks ago, I would like to get to the odor management side and take out the pre-packaging exclusion for the requirement for active odor management. And the more I read about these things, the more I see that odor is very important. You probably saw in the paper this week, the dispensary that's proposed down to Elliott. The big issue down there is odor. And then the other thing we talked about was the signage. And I don't know if anybody's done any research on this. Wasn't there a provision in the Maine marijuana law regarding what can be and can't be on one of these signs?
I believe there's a law regarding the what the products look like and how they're advertised on the packaging.
Yeah.
I think the only provision is that you cannot market something to children. So it can't have cute animals or rainbows or little unicorns or things like that. But I don't think there's any other prohibition.
Okay. Well, what this says is all signage and advertising shall comply with the applicable section of our code, yes. And signage containing misleading or deceptive marketing or marketing towards individuals under the age of 21, that's what you're saying, Hershey, is prohibited.
Right.
The state statutes regarding signs, advertising, and marketing shall be here. I think it's, I pull this issue. This is as strong as it needs to be, I believe.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Me too.
Because that references the state law. So let's pull that as an issue. And then we also had a note about the license transferability, and that's taken up by the town council workshop item.
Bill, just my one of the things that I've kind of come up against as I've been looking into it is I find that I feel like this ordinance is extraordinarily weak because it just says, yeah, and go look at the state law, but I don't feel like any work was done to go see what the state law said. I would suggest that we reference the state law in this, so it's easy for our.
That's a great idea, Jeff. So this would have a specific, maybe there's some place in here there would be references to the applicable ordinances. That's a great idea.
It would be helpful for everyone, I think.
Yeah. All right, so let me suggest, I think where we're at, going to a town council workshop next week, a joint workshop. We would let me put up their document again. Boom, there it is. We would deal with all this stuff, not so much with the setbacks, but suggest a zoning overlay or something. If this can be done without setbacks, that might be the best way to do it. I think that's the consensus of our group. And then and the 1,000 feet between stores is okay because that's what we have now, and there would be one non-conforming store.
Bill, I don't think that is what we have now.
No.
I think
We
we have
have
300.
300 feet.
We have 300 between stores.
No, but do we change, what the thing is, what do we change it to?
Well, I would rather have that discussion with the town council and see what they have to say.
Okay, I'm fine with that. The
So-
question,
So,
yeah, so if you go to, I mean, I'm not sure what the numbers would do. What is 300 feet allowed down there? More? Probably one or two more, right?
probably.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to see, like a tax map with somebody who actually sat down with I can, I keep asking for this. We don't seem to be able to get it. Maybe I'll just ask Mike Lassell to provide something if no one minds. Just as a favor. And we have, whoa,
Oh,
somebody's coffee grinder, garbage disposal. What are they trying to say? Should I take it personally?
probably not.
I just like to see a map of Lower Main Street with the lots on it and some measurements.
Yeah, let's ask for that. Let's ask for that for the town council workshop
I
next
feel
week.
like I've asked, and
I believe that there are maps out there, and so the
we just
town
get a
already has
tax,
them.
all we need is like a tax map printed for that area. That's all we need.
Yeah, I know. I've got one here. I didn't do it.
I'm just
I
gonna
think
ask Mike.
anybody can get those tax maps right up for
They're
a buck
online.
or something and
They're online.
then and just go ahead and color code it if you want
Yeah.
to see that get done. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we had before talked about is if you did have sensitive uses that you want to specifically have setbacks from. And so I had done some language when we had talked about this before, and that was including sensitive uses. I can show you what was sort of drafted in there if you want to make that, or if you just do an overlay zone. But if you do an overlay zone, if you say it's okay in that zoning district, then there aren't any regulations for specific uses. They can go anywhere within that overlay if they can meet the other sort of setbacks from other stores.
Yeah, I think, but if we choose the setback from other stores, we've taken care of that in that overlay zone. I mean, if we go to 500 or 1,000 or 200, whatever, there's going to be so many that are allowed. And I've heard input from folks that, we don't want that to be necessarily the marijuana row, but it's already got a couple there, and we're going to learn to live with them and see how it goes. And so I think that last dimension should be taken up next week with the council. I agree with Hershey on that. And then the lapsing of or I should say the transfer of the licenses, I don't think is important, as long as it's properly licensed afterwards. And then we're talking about making sure that the references to state law are complete where needed. So there's no vagueness about what that is. And we wanted to take that minor issue with the come on, there we go. Getting the odor control out. So that's what we would take to the council workshop next week. Good.
Sounds good.
Okay, that's great. Okay, I'll stop sharing then. That's great. And so on the council workshop, they requested that we show up to talk specifically about this ordinance next Wednesday night. That's our off week. I think I don't know what they're talking, 6:30 or 7, but can the majority of this board make that?
Yes.
Be able to, yep.
Okay, great. Okay, and we'll get this done. That's great. Okay. Then let me get rid of this. I think that's the most important thing we needed to do tonight. But we can take up some more discussion. There's still some time on the medical cultivation ordinance, and that one. Hang on. Where was that? Here it is. 2 weeks ago, we had talked about, I'll share my screen again. Where is that? There it is right there. Okay. 2 weeks ago, we had talked about sticking with the concept of defining, and this is the concept that was proposed by the council. It was explained at some length with the town attorney some time ago, that the concept, we can control cultivation if we name it and zone it, as opposed to having the activity potentially unregulated and potentially open for the agricultural argument. That was the basis of the recommendation. And this is the ordinance that was started, and we marked up, and I suggested that we clarify that this definition of a medical cultivation growing facility, which is tied to registered caregivers, are facilities that are shared for cultivation by 2 or more registered caregivers. So a registered caregiver doing their own thing on their own property, we're not regulating. Okay, because that's happening now, and I don't think anyone's trying to limit that. That's a ability that we have in Maine, and that's it. But the idea is that people joining together and having a large facility to accommodate smaller operations of multiple people, that's what we're trying to regulate here. And so if we say 2 or more registered caregivers, and that we can limit the size of the facility to a number of caregivers or a size of the facility. And last time we talked, Hershey was talking about, well, what's a reasonable size? And that's out there. So if we don't regulate the number of caregivers or the size, then there's no limit on it, and they can do whatever they can fit into our site plan ordinances. So the question is, do we want to limit the size of these commercial, so-called commercial operations?
So I think we need to, if we say 2 or more, that means 1 is not regulated, but there needs to be a square footage or some number put on that 1, because I can foresee one person coming in that has a 10,000 square feet facility, and therefore he does not need to be.
No, because the way it works, Manley, is a single caregiver can grow what's called a 500 square foot canopy.
Okay. So we do have a number of 500 feet.
500 square feet.
Yeah, okay.
A single person can't grow more than 500 square feet, if I understand correctly. What's proposed here is that a person can provide a facility for a whole bunch of people to do their 500-foot operations. So they can have 20 people doing it, and each one has 500 feet to do it. And that's a big facility.
That's fine. How about the commercial person that wants to do a large facility and not have a number of people in it?
They cannot do that. That's another kind of cultivation which the town needs to opt in on. It's the medical cultivation that's the loophole.
I see. So that's sounds like we got it covered then.
Yeah. Well, if we agree on it, the question is how many registered caregivers can share a facility, or what's the size of it? I think we can take that to the council.
Bill, what I started writing on there was that medical marijuana caregivers, less than 2 state of Maine licensed medical marijuana caregivers operating from a single lot of record. And we could say up to a maximum of 1,000 square feet of grow area.
Or whatever the number is.
Right.
So, but if it's 1,000 square feet, then that's only 2. So you're limiting it to 2.
That's what I'm saying. Anything, it is less than 2, so 2 or less.
Well, but okay, so that's
2 or less.
I like the 2 or more,
It's
and the
fewer.
500 square.
Sorry.
You're right, Hershey.
Thank you.
I like the fact if you have 2, then it gets regulated. I can foresee a husband and wife just getting together, and now they're up to 1,000. I think 500 is more than enough to not be regulated.
So the question, I guess I think we've got a disconnect here. So if 2 or more are in the definition of a cultivation growing facility, what's the limit of greater than 2 that you would impose on it? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it the square foot of the facility? What is it?
I don't think there needs to be any because no matter if you limit it, then they're just gonna make another building.
Not the same property.
Yeah, because
Betsy, you got a
they
comment?
won't meet the requirements of the setbacks and the, lot coverage and everything else that we allow.
Yeah.
I'm, as you know, I'm not in agreement with it, but if we're gonna go with it, like I said, let's get the licensing, let's go for the money. So then bring in some money into the town if that can work.
Yeah. Betsy, you have a comment, question?
Yeah. I know that this isn't necessarily going to be loved by everybody, but I mean, I would like to see two people be able to share resources and grow without having to do a site plan review.
Okay, so you would say greater than 2.
I would say greater than 2.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're allowed to pick a number of caregivers, or we're allowed to pick the size of the building. And I suggest we sort of try to get them intertwined, where we say, this is the size of the building we're comfortable with, right? We don't want, this mega 100,000 square foot building. But what seems reasonable, and then we'll backtrack to how many caregivers that might
either way, that could be accomplished either way, Hershey. You're absolutely right.
Right, but I'm just
stating because right now, just in if you only look at the definition, and you're talking about, who does and doesn't need to do a site plan review right now by saying 2 or more, or requiring it to be 2.
Yeah,
I would just like to see it be 3.
Okay.
Well, we talked about doing like a home occupation and allowing 2 or less, thinking that if you had 3 people, all of a sudden you've got a much larger area. And we also tried to define the difference between the medical caregivers. So someone who's basically operating out of their home and their partner, husband, wife, whatever, and they're living on site. So, if I'm renting, I would do it like a home occupation. I would have to get the property owners sign off before I could get a home occupation. And that would just be a very small mom and pop sort of, we're going each for 5 friends. That's it. And then we've got the actual growing facilities, and that's a totally different animal. So you may have a 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 square foot proposal, and does the board want to put, or the council, the board want to put a limit on that? If you said it's okay in the I1 and I2 zone, do you want to get into limiting what a building could be used for? Or I see them as 2 very separate things.
Yeah. Well, let's break down the issues here. My sense is, and my personal view is, yes, I would like to limit it. I don't think we should do things at the industrial scale. I think that's a slippery slope. That's my personal view. I think if it's allowable and it's legal, we can reasonably allow it, but it should be at a scale which is appropriate for our community, which is X thousands of square feet or so many registered caregivers. In terms of the home occupation, that's a whole nother direction. And I'm trying to keep this simple and not deal with home occupation in the timeframes that we're talking about.
I'm with you, Bill.
I think that's a bridge too far in the timeframes that we're dealing with it here.
I don't know why this marijuana stuff is getting special provision. Every other business, whether it's 500 square feet or not, they have to go through provisions, the way I understand it.
Because the state law did it. The legislature did it to us, Manley.
Right, and so fine, if they did it, we can't do nothing about it. Let's just go with the 500 square feet for 1 person, and let's move on. Every other business, whether you're excavating business or
I know.
Rabbit growing business, a horse business, you've got to come before us.
But the state legislature said if you want to grow pot for medical reasons, you can do it up to 500 square feet. And
well,
and
there's
that's
nothing
right.
we can do about it. So that's fine. Let's go with the 500 square feet, 1 person.
There is a route where you license everybody and issue home occupation stuff. My personal view is that's too complicated for what we're doing. And
No, it seems like the medical marijuana industry has been just fine for years here with nobody even noticing until now. So all these home growers are among us. I don't see
Yeah.
a problem. Let's just leave them alone.
I think
The
so.
only thing before us is if people want to gang together, save some money, be in the industrial zone and build a bigger facility, how big is it going to be and how
Right.
many do we allow? That's all we have before us. Let's just stick to that.
Okay, I'm with you 100%.
Agree.
Yeah, okay. So that's, okay, so we beat that to death and we'll take that to the council.
You know what, Bill, and once again, what would be really useful is if we could get some examples of like
Sizes.
there's size, right? So if you go up Fife's Lane, there's a whole row of warehouses up there, which I have to say, I don't think are used to the full extent of their sizes, but there's like a metal fabricator, there's a furniture maker. Like, are we thinking those kind of sizes? Are we thinking like, I don't know, I just don't know. And I want to see, what examples, I would love to see like some photos
Yeah.
of here's what this is 3 caregivers. This is a 1,700 square foot facility. It's this by this.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't make me do it.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, so let's take that question forward to the council. And what else did we have in here for, we had minor issues other than that with about odor control and so forth. So, fine. Let's take that to council if they want to deal with that next week too. I know they want to deal with the medical storefront, which we talked about, and we'll take this as well. I think we got the scope of our recommendations are narrowing now so that they're pretty clear and we can finalize them.
So what are we bringing? What are we for this one?
What we're saying, we're accepting the recommendation of first recommendation of the council and the recommendation of the town attorney to regulate this by defining the use up here and then regulating the use as to where it can go and how big it can be. That's the primary thing. And then there's a few details to follow. So that what has been recommended to us is that if we don't do this, then there's a loophole in various laws where the argument can be made and we don't know whether we would prevail, that you could do this anywhere where agricultural uses are allowed. I don't agree, but I'll take the recommendation of the town attorney on that. And so if we want to get out in front of that, we can define the use and define where it can go. And if we, in the definition of the use, also deal with the size, then we can regulate the scale of these things that we think is appropriate. So we on a site plan, if they can fit in a 50,000 square foot building and meet all the site plan regulations that are associated with that, with traffic and light and everything else, then we don't have a limit on it. If we limit the number of registered caregivers or the square footage of that, then we can keep the size appropriate in our view at this point with the scale of our town and not have industrial facilities of this sort.
Okay. I know that I'm sitting here at the pleasure of the town council, but I want to go on record and to say that I sit in every town council meeting. I've been doing that since last year. I think I've missed a couple. So one thing I will say that I tend to hear is, oh, this takes so much time. Oh, we have so much on our plate. Oh, this is time. This is time. As I sit here on the planning board, I know that I am spending a lot of time and I do it with a smile. So what my concern is that if we bring something to the town council and say, hey guys, we recommend that you do these 2 different things, the town council is going to, in the name of time, potentially take what I would classify as maybe the easy way out. And I believe that we need to stress that a lot of effort be put into, I believe, into licensing. Whether you guys all agree with that, that's my concern. I just want to make sure that the 10 of us on the planning board and town council are putting the time and effort into not having to do this in a year again.
Yeah. I respect that and I agree with it. And I think we can have a free discussion of that when we get in a joint thing. And the other thing is what can be accomplished in the time we got, because the moratoriums are going to run out.
Certainly. I just wanted to make sure I brought that up.
Yep, I appreciate that, Jeff. And I think you ought to have a full presentation of that point of view when we meet with the council.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're in good shape, and I'll communicate back to Jack that we'll all be there next week, and I'll give a rough rundown of where we go, and I think we can get a fair amount accomplished next week. Great. Then I'll close our workshop. Where am I here? I want.
Hey, Bill, before you close the workshop.
Yeah.
It looked like the references in the ordinance that the council is reviewing. It looks like those standards are being put in chapter 140-69 on your document.
Yeah.
And we actually already have a 140-68, which is when we had started messing around for some reason. I noticed that the one that was adopted by the council, so it should actually probably be 140-67-1.
Okay, we'll get that sorted out.
But it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
here,
absolutely.
because-
Yeah, before it gets on, it has to be gone over with a fine tooth comb. So great. Okay, great. That's good work, everybody. So now we go back to old business. Number 2 under old business is the AT&T tower. We're not dealing with that tonight, are we? There's nothing new on that, is there?
No.
Okay, so all we got is the Bennett lot subdivision. So good. We heard a lot in a public hearing. There are a number of things that we should talk about, irrespective of the public hearing, and maybe more with the respect to public hearing. I'll let Brian and Pat make another presentation if they wish, and then we can decide where we're going next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to take too much of the board's time. I think everyone's fairly familiar with the project and the project scope at this point, and the issues that have been brought up. In regards to the blending hurdles, I can say that we are in the process of working through that. I have been in contact with Derek Yorks from IFNW for several months, and he has now agreed to come out and do a site visit, hopefully within the next few weeks. So I'll be with him on that and can update the board and everybody else.
I'm sorry, Brian, to interrupt, but I think that we had agreed that didn't have to occur at the preliminary stage. It absolutely has to occur now.
Correct. Yep.
And in the full IFNW review, a lot of it was referred to by some of the commenters in the public hearing. That needs to play out, and that's one of the very important things that we can't move forward unless we understand what the issues are with that.
Right. And just so everybody's aware, that is standard practice. No one's trying to sneak by that, whether the project was opposed or whether we were near a wetland or not. We always contact IFNW when it comes to endangered species.
Can you explain what is typically done by them in this process, Brian?
Sure. So typically I'll send them a site plan. I've been continuously sending Derek updates as they change. He's seen the conventional and the cluster plan. And we will typically set up a site visit date for, dependent on the species. If it's a New England cottontail, we would go out during the wintertime because you have to find their poop, and that's on top of the snow. And for Blandings turtles, you'll typically go out around now. And Derek, who's a reptile specialist, would look for habitats that they find preferable. They tend to hunt in vernal pools and things like that.
Yeah. Now, on the subdivision we dealt with last month out on Mountain Road, they included a lot of specific provisions and restrictions on their lot developments based on the IF&W findings.
Yep.
Are you anticipating findings that, how would those findings need to be incorporated in a permitting process?
Sure. Typically, they will give us some recommendations. Often, it's less cut and dry than if you were dealing with, say, the MDEP, but often there's kind of a back and forth on decision making and permitting. I anticipate some restriction buffers around the vernal pool, maybe in excess of what you would typically see. Some maybe no cut, no disturb buffers, or he may ask for some habitat protection if he finds, especially if he finds a nested area. Probably ask for some extra habitat protection and deed restrictions, things of that nature. There are a lot of different things that we can do to help mitigate any damage to habitat.
Yeah. Okay.
I have several thoughts when you get time.
Please.
So I don't know if I can catch them all, but what I see before us right now is a decision whether we're going to approve 5 lots, or if that becomes that we do not do it, we approve 2 lots. And I would suggest the 5 lots is better from a conservation viewpoint. And this is a reason for it. If we, right now, we're able to lock in several requirements on preserving the Blanding turtle and all of the other protections. But if we force this developer into a 2-lot, there's going to be he doesn't need to have a subdivision. He simply sell 2 lots, and within 5 years, potentially it could be 4 lots. And then within 10 years, you've got a potential of more than that. And there are no ways of making it so that we cannot protect the different things. This Blanding turtle being brought up just reaffirms my thinking that we did the right decision by going with a cluster concept, because we are protecting all the species in this smaller of a subdivision. In reference to I guess there's been an appeal made. Quite frankly, I don't know what stand-in they would have even to make an appeal, simply because we already approved this cluster approach, and we just reaffirmed it with the other vote. They only had, I believe, 30 days to appeal that, and that long has since come and gone. But that's the essence of my
Manley, we were 10 minutes before the meeting came, I got the very long email from the appellants and their attorney, and I haven't digested any of it. My understanding is that they're appealing our decision of May 5th to approve the cluster and to approve the cluster.
Yeah, my point is, even though we did approve it, we had previously approved it also.
Well,
So
that my view is that's between the applicant and the ZBA, and we can't be too concerned with what happens there. If something
that's
happens,
fine. I just wanted to put that out there.
if something happens and it comes back to us, that's what happens. And Applicant can make decisions on it. We can proceed, and the ZBA is going to operate on their schedule and make whatever decision they make, and we have no control over that. So.
That's the essence of what I've had to say on that.
Yeah, okay, good, yeah. So Brian, what are the other things that, assuming that other people externalities don't change everything, what other things are you planning to prepare for submittal to this planning board?
Oh, as primarily looking to keep this current design. As far as more specifics, I'd like to talk it through with the client. We didn't, because this project's been, I guess I'll say, volatile. I wanted to workshop everything with the board before moving on with any design changes. So no major changes anticipated at this point, other than all the other items required for final plan submission.
And could you walk through what you believe those to be?
Sure. I know we're going to need a full stormwater model.
Yep.
That will likely have some small changes, maybe sizes of culverts, specific location houses, pond
Yep.
sizes, that sort of thing.
Okay.
I believe that's the primary one that will affect any actual design.
Okay. And the natural resources assessment is going to be very important for the reasons we talked about. So, okay.
Yes, of course.
So do you anticipate that the IF&W thing to be needing to play out before you can substantially address the other issues?
Well, I will be able to speak to that more intelligently in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Derek
Yeah,
is
gotcha.
supposed to come out with me. That being said, there are a good amount of wetlands, so I imagine having some additional protections put in place ahead of our next
Okay.
application.
Fine. Betsy,
Have we received a road design
preliminary, yeah.
of like the grading of
Yeah.
road?
Yep.
Oh, I have missed that. Does
Do you want
Brian, yeah, could you bring that up?
Of course. So I've got the grading plan and I've got the road plan and profile that shows both.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So, oh, okay, so you're gonna be building up on, is that the front end on the left
Yes.
where the drive comes into the road?
Yep.
Okay, so you'll be filling that part in. So you're actually not removing any land to make the road. You're actually adding land.
Not a major amount. No, there's a little bit of a cut towards the end. That being said,
Oh yeah.
I think the topo at the front is closer to what's existing now. I think this dip may be an artifact from the LiDAR, because when you go out there, there is already a decent amount of fill for the existing road.
Okay.
But we will be significantly increasing the size of that pipe so you don't get any washout into the nearby wetlands.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't know if all the people that were in the public hearing are still here, but there is an answer. And one thing I know about developers, they want to make money. Is I'm sure that all these different organizations just pull together. They could buy 3 lots out if they want, or they could and still have restrictions on 2 lots, or they could buy the whole thing out. There's a way that they can get what they want. It seems though there's been so much other property brought up there. Why don't you just buy this man out and make him whole and let him move on?
That is a interesting point of view. And the sort of comes to the fundamentals of, the landowner's the landowner. I don't intend to do a point by point conversation on a lot of what we heard. But there's going to be differences of opinion between the presenters at the public hearing and those that are forced to actually deal with this ordinance and implications of it. I think there is a sort of a built-in conflict between what the reference is to the comprehensive plan and the ordinance. And there is some that were accurately described and some that I don't believe were accurately described earlier today. And the ordinance is guided by the comprehensive plan, but it is the ordinance. And it's what was adopted by the town council at the time that the ordinances were adopted. And there's room for shading all over the place. And I think let the appellates play it out, and we'll see what happens. I think we need to carefully proceed and evaluate each of the elements of this thing, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I think we need to not prejudge our actions, but we need to follow the ordinance at this point in terms of what the procedures are.
No, Bill.
Yeah, sorry.
Bill, will we be able to get an independent review of the numbers?
We have talked about having a third-party review of the final design and focusing on the drainage. And that's we'll figure out how to do that, whether it's through town resources or a true third party. In my own work world, I do that all the time for other towns.
Russ.
So when we get something that close to final, my position will be that we need a third party review of the engineering. Yes. I'm not so concerned about the dimensions and all that stuff. I know why people are, but the drainage design and the specifics of the roadway and the drainage design, I'm going to insist on a third party review.
Is there a way that we can kind of submit to the town and a third party simultaneously ahead of getting that ordered at the next meeting?
I need to talk with Joe. I need to talk with Perry Ellsworth about what we're going to do on that.
Understood. Thank you.
I was hoping to have a better direction tonight, but it's not established yet.
I see.
And that'll be communicated to you through David or others.
That works for us.
Okay.
I guess I would, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I guess I would ask the board at this time, the design, especially the cluster design, is relatively unchanged. And I know we're still waiting on IF&W. Are there any design items that stick out? Anything that you'd like us to look at further? Something you really don't like that we can look at while we're doing the final design, so we can kind of, I guess, reduce the amount of times we have to come back.
I have one issue, and I think the entrance, and this will come out with a third-party review of the road coming in and the culvert going under there. I'm very worried will be undersized based on changing conditions and so forth. And I think you ought to be thinking about a very conservative opening, perhaps meeting the stream crossing rules. That's even though it's not a stream. A big opening, a wide culvert, perhaps a precast system that's bigger than you need hydraulically, so that a biota can pass without question and it'll never clog. That's my thought.
Understood. And that's based that primarily on like the size of the subcatchment that's flowing into there.
I would be very conservative about that if I were you.
Okay.
And I would look, and in terms of materials, I would like something that's more based on stream crossing rules than conventional hydraulics. Other comments people may have?
I almost hate to mention it, but I know that the applicant's desire is to eventually have the roadway accepted by the town. But is that correct, Ryan? Right?
I believe.
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and so is there any kind of a need for an association? If it's accepted by the town, the roadways, I don't think you need it, because you're gonna have all kinds of restrictions on the individual lots. But I'm just thinking, if the roadway's not taken over by the town, and there is some kind of a washout at the end of the roadway, who does the town go to and say, you got to fix this? And I don't know if that's a draft, or we can condition that in, that if the roadway is not accepted, a homeowners association has to be established or something.
I think there are responsibilities of the cluster that flow to a homeowners association, no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that from a design perspective, that's interesting, but from a organizational and management perspective, that there's a whole other set of issues associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
We've already talked about months ago, use of low impact BMPs for all stormwater units, so that nothing is a simple detention pond, everything's a treatment system.
Correct. That remains.
Yeah. Hershey, you're just taking off your glasses. You have something you have to say.
No, I'm just tired. Thanks. Thanks for asking, though. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. I think, are we done for tonight?
No.
Okay.
To be honest, David Walsh is here from the new Singular Wireless. He is on the agenda for discussion.
Oh, he's here.
Yes.
Okay.
So
all right.
Done with us. So
I think we're, yes, yes, Pat and Brian. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for workshopping that with us. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, Brian.
Okay, so item 2 is the AT&T new Singular Wireless package. I'm not sure, David, nothing's been submitted since last time, right?
Oh, I think there may be, I'm a little confused. So thank you, Mr. Chair, first of all, for hearing me late in the session. I have submitted a full application.
Okay.
I believe all of the information required from the board. Some of the feedback I got is you were looking for setbacks. That is shown in the drawings. I can point that out if you want me to screen share. I'm happy to.
Sure.
And then abutter notices have been sent.
Okay.
So we pull up.
Yeah, I'm afraid we didn't get this, so we can't act on it officially, but we can get briefed on it tonight.
Okay. So the main feedback I got from David and Amy was the setback call out, and I will agree with the board. These plans are pretty dense. It took me a second to find them, and I knew where to look. So if you need these cleaned up, or in a more traditional zoning package, I can certainly work on that. But I'm sorry.
So last time you were here it was sketch plan review, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yep. And so you since made formal application?
My formal application was submitted prior to that sketch plan review.
Okay.
When I filed, there were we were fully submitted.
Gotcha. Okay. Then I think what we need to do is at our next meeting, consider completeness and accept the application next time.
Okay, understood.
Does that make sense? I hate to draw this out, but I didn't know that we were needing to be prepared for this tonight.
No, understood. It seems like you've had a busy meeting already. I totally get it. But that's fine. While I'm here, is there anything that you need me to touch on?
That's great. Yeah.
The road into it, we had spoke about that, and did you do any work on that?
In reference to what? I don't recall what.
Well, the width and what do you have for a road at this present time?
Sure. So I can show. I happen to be on the right page. Let me zoom in so it's a little clearer. Wadley Lane, the existing right of way into the water department property would be used to enter the parcel, and there will be a 15-foot wide gravel access road installed here, and then it widens to a 30-foot as you approach the site to be used as a turnaround as well as a parking area.
David, this is a new user, isn't it? The existing tower is the water district, the town's tower for police and all that stuff, right?
That's correct. So the existing tower is not sufficient for AT&T's use as well as the town. So what AT&T has proposed is to replace it.
Right. But you are a new entity on this site, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then I didn't think of this last time, but can you confirm your legal rights to the right of way? Does the water district have to convey that to you, or somebody else have to convey that to you?
That is, and it's included in our application package. We put a redacted land agreement in there.
Sorry. Thank you. Good.
That's okay. That's all right.
So,
No.
Yeah.
So who does own the road?
Wadley Lane, where it crosses over into the water district property, I believe it's owned by the water district. I don't have the.
I'm talking about the whole Wadley Lane. Is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's known, Manley. Wadley Lane up where it's paved and there's houses, that's town, obviously, but I don't know that the extension to Wadley Lane that goes down and up to the water tower is owned by the town. I don't know.
Well, that's my question. If it's owned by the town, it's not an issue. But if it's on someone else's land or a number of other people's land, how wide is it?
Right.
And what is the shape of the road going into it?
Yeah.
I'm in favor of this this plan. I think it would be good for AT&T to have better service, but quite frankly, Verizon service stinks in this area also. So I'd like to see the whole thing, but.
Well, David said that he had there's a that's addressed in what he's already proposed or applied for, and David Galbraith, let's take a look at that before next time, make sure we understand it. If there's any questions, we'll have to raise them then. Good point, Manley. And it looks like they've addressed it, but we have to make sure the i's are dotted on that. Because there's another project in the region, and they did not establish that they had rights to access the property. That other people had rights and they weren't conveyed to them. They thought the town the town owned the road, and it was not determined that they did.
Understood. Okay, so I will come prepared. I don't have that answer at hand. I do have the information to get it.
Yeah.
I'll come prepared to the next meeting. With
I think that might be the sole technical issue here, maybe. And if you're all set, you're all set.
Okay, excellent.
Great. So we'll hopefully take this up in earnest next time.
Excellent, thank you, and sorry for hijacking the end of the meeting.
No. Sorry
Take the time, though.
I didn't recognize your photo in Zoom as who you were. So sorry about that.
No problem at all.
Yeah, great. Okay,
All right.
great. Thank you.
I'll give you back.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so that gets us to there's no other old business. As we head towards adjournment and Manley's probable motion, is there any other member comments? Hearing none, go ahead, Manley.
I make a motion to adjourn. Let's go get some ice cream.
Someone second it, please.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Jeff. Okay, have a great night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Look at that, we finished early.